Hello there, Atheist Junior here, your friend and humble narrator. And today I have a very special guest with me on the channel, Hemant Mehta. So he's an atheist activist, teacher, and author, publishing articles on thefriendlyatheist.pathos.com. And he's also published several books such as I Sold My Soul on eBay and The Young Atheist Survival Guide. He co-hosts the Friendly Atheist podcast, and he's recently started a new podcast about the history of the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you like this interview, check out Hemant's channel. It's called Atheist Voice, and consider pledging to his Patreon page at patreon.com/Hemant. And if you'd like to make a one-time donation, instead, I'll have his Venmo and PayPal and all his links listed below. So first of all, Hemant, thank you so much for agreeing to come on my channel. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I hope you can hear me okay with this microphone, but no, this is good. I'm excited.
Yeah, it sounds great. So are you still teaching classes, or are you done for the summer now?
I stopped teaching a while ago. I still coach at a local high school, and our summer camp is over. I got a couple weeks before our season starts up in the competitive season for competitive public speaking score. Right now it's mostly taking care of kids until school starts up, and daycare is out of like a COVID lockdown situation. Good times.
Yeah, so you coach like or do like a debate team at your
Something like that. Yeah. So I'm the head coach of that at a local high school here, which is a blast. It's something to it's fun to work with kids, and it's fun to get my mind off of atheism and all the other stuff I do online. So it's a good balance for me.
So maybe this is a bit general, but like how did you get started with like your atheist activism?
Sure. I'll try to give you a short version, which is I became an atheist in high school, didn't meet any other atheists to my knowledge. So when I got to college, I wanted to meet some. I started a group with someone I met at school. And through the person I met, we started a group on campus. I found out there was this like national organization called the Secular Student Alliance that really helped college atheists meet other people, start facilitating groups. And so I got active and involved with that group. And through that, I got to meet a bunch of the other groups that I think are more well-known now nationally: the American Humanist Association, Freedom from Religion Foundation, Secular Coalition for America. So I got to know the people who kind of run those groups. And I think if you yada your way a few years, I did this stunt online where I sold my soul on eBay. And the thing about that is I ended up writing about being an atheist, visiting a bunch of churches online. And it was really a series of blog posts more than anything else. And so even after I was done with that experiment, it was like it was early in the world of blogging. And it was really cool that I could write about these things that were seemingly controversial, but people responded well and constructively. And like, you're on YouTube too. You know how hard that is to facilitate. Yeah. So it was exciting. And so I figured I just want to keep writing about these issues that come up, because it's kind of nice to be able to get out your own thoughts and have people respond. And now it's more about what's in the news and giving people a forum on which to talk about those issues. I can kind of get the ball rolling, but those comment threads are really long on every single post, it seems. So that's kind of the way I got started into this activism. It's something I did not plan for, but I kind of stumbled into it. Yeah. But it's been neat that I've been able to make it kind of a full-time thing myself.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I think maybe you'll agree that there's sort of a couple different eras of like YouTube atheism. Like you have back when the site was still like in its infancy with creators like Thunderfoot and Venom Fang X, Concordance, and obviously Aaron Ra, who's still making videos. And then there was sort of a lull, and now you have this like resurgence of younger people who are making atheist content like Paulogia, Genetically Modified Skeptic, and Rachel Oates. And why do you think there's been sort of a big uptick in this new number of atheist creators on the site?
I don't know the reason for the uptick, but I'll tell you what, every time there's a new popular medium of any sort, so like when blogging became a thing, that was a place for a lot of people who never really had a voice when it came to writing best-selling books. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, all of us could write if that was our way to get those ideas across. When YouTube becomes a thing a little later, or at least it got more popular in my mind a little later, that became a place for people who maybe writing wasn't their thing, but they're really good at making videos. And anyone who's watching this, like, you know what style you like, you know what creators you like, and they're really good at it. Like Richard Dawkins, for all his success in writing books about science and atheism, would never translate to YouTube in the same way that someone like Rachel or Genetically Modified Skeptic could do. They do a really good job of like tailoring their material to the medium.
Hmm.
Like I've tried to dip my toes in different things. Sometimes it works, a lot of times it doesn't. But that's the thing. Like you could say the same thing about podcasts. There are some people who do that really well, and they probably wouldn't do well at any of those other mediums. So I don't know that it's a case of like new people flocking to YouTube so much as YouTube is a thing. That is where people are having discussions about these issues. And if you want to get in on that conversation, that's what you should tailor your voice to. And you know what? Like 5, 10 years from now, maybe no one will be blogging. I mean, that's already going away. I don't know if podcasts will be a thing. I don't know if YouTube will be a thing. I don't know what the next thing is going to be, but like, this is a joke I've heard many times before, but whenever there's like a new technology of some sort, whether it's TikTok or whatever it is, like two groups of people are really good at jumping on that bandwagon, and it's religious apologists, including atheists, and like the people who make adult content.
Yeah,
And
I was
they're
just thinking
always
that.
really fast at it, and they're always really good at it. And so that's the thing, like whatever it is, there will always be a new younger generation who's able to articulate all the things we're talking about in a fresher, interesting way. And I'll tell you what, there are plenty of people who don't watch YouTube, who don't listen to podcasts, who still like The God Delusion or Name the Book, whatever was popular 10, 20 years ago. But whatever, like there's a new group of people. And I'll tell you what, too, this is interesting because the people you mentioned, like the newer YouTubers who are popular now, I watch a lot of their channels. They are not necessarily just talking about atheism. They are not talking about the stuff that the YouTubers were talking about a while back, because they're either that's not the only thing that makes up their identity, or like, okay, fine, I don't need your help to become an atheist. Most young people are non-religious to begin with. The
Mhm.
question is, what do you do with that? Or how did the critical thinking skills that led you to become an atheist impact other issues that matter to you, whether it's LGBTQ rights, politics, etc. So they end up talking about a lot of that stuff, which again, that's more interesting to me anyway. I don't really, you can notice this on all the stuff, whether it's my writing or YouTube or whatever. I do not care much for like straight up, here's why you should be an atheist arguments. I am one. I'm good. I don't need to waste my time talking about it. What's interesting to me is once you are an atheist, all right, what should you think about various issues? And can I persuade you to think the way I think on those issues? That is way more interesting. And it seems like when I'm watching those other YouTubers, that's kind of what they focus on. It's here's what I think about certain books using the same skills that led me out of religion. Here's what I think about current event issues and things like that. So that's what I find those people, like especially the YouTubers and podcasters, more interesting because they're talking about things that are relevant instead of rehashing age-old theological arguments, debating Christian apologists. I'm not saying that's bad.
Mhm.
It's just not interesting to me.
Yeah, I know you've been pretty vocal that you're not somebody that does the debate thing, but yeah, I mean, because atheism, it really intersects with a lot of other issues, like of course politics in America, like you said, LGBT issues, and the way that you sort of navigate those intersections is very interesting, especially for people from different countries like Rachel, or just people who've had different experiences, and like Richard Dawkins, and of course Hitch. He was very interesting doing debates, and I
Right.
wonder if Hitchens could, what a YouTube channel of his own would have been like. But yeah, Richard Dawkins, he's great at giving interviews. Like there's a great channel called Stated Clearly, and he also has a second channel called Stated Casually, and he just interviewed Richard Dawkins recently. But yeah, like I don't know if the older sort of generation of atheists would be able to have this sort of personality that you need to have a channel based about yourself. So that's a really
And
great
again,
answer.
maybe that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I've said this before about Dawkins. I think he's an amazing long form science writer. And when he dabbles in other stuff, he royally sucks at it. Like,
Yeah,
great long form essay writer, great book writer, sucks at tweets, but he's really good at that one thing. And you know what? That's fine. Let him be good at that one thing. He only causes controversy when he tries dabbling in other worlds. And again, that's a whole different conversation. But that's the thing. Like, when you're part of a medium and you know what creators are doing and what those conversations are like, you're better equipped to handle it, and you're better equipped to talk about it in a way that will be appealing. And there's a difference between live interviews, which I'm sure the one you just mentioned is fine with Dawkins, versus someone who may not look like me or talk like me or think like me, but who knows how, like, the YouTube aesthetic, who is just fun to watch and says stuff that I like to hear, or that I think is thought provoking in the right ways, but doing it in a way I never could do. They're just really good at manipulating YouTube in the good ways. It's like,
mm-hmm.
oh, that was cute. That was funny. I don't have that brain and I couldn't do that, but I love watching you do it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it's okay that someone like Dawkins is good at one medium and sucks at another. Would Hitch be good in others? Who cares? He's a good writer. He's persuasive. He's definitely an effective communicator, even if there's a bunch of stuff he said that I thought was dumb.
Sure.
Like, he was really good at speaking and writing about this stuff. The fact that maybe that would not translate to Twitter in the same way, or he would get dogpiled on in these other mediums, like, yeah, he probably would, and I'm sure he would relish that. But like, that's the thing. What I like right now is that there are so many opportunities for, if you are a young activist who cares about this stuff to the point where, like, to me, I'm not speaking for anyone but myself here, becoming an atheist felt like the first big decision I ever made that I wasn't influenced by anybody else. I just kind of figured that one out. And I felt like I know a secret that virtually no one else knows. And I feel this desire to communicate it. And by the way, that's not different from a lot of born again Christians either, who feel like I know something and I got to share it with the world. But the cool thing is there are so many ways to do that. And good. Like, that's what I would advise a lot of young people to do. If you care about this stuff, speak out in the ways you see fit. Like, you don't have to do the thing that someone else is doing. Do your own thing. Find your own medium. Like, Richard Dawkins isn't going to beat you to TikTok, but I don't know how to make it. That's not my style. Like, but someone else watching may be really good at communicating really effectively, like with those shorter videos, with the ways they do things that are interesting and get people watching. You know what they are? I don't. I'm old. You figure it out and you'll find an audience. Like, I've never heard anybody try something like that and keep at it and not get positive feedback. Like, everyone who's done it for a while has always heard from somebody, hands down, no exceptions, where someone said, I appreciate this thing you did, this interview you did, this TikTok you made, the video you made, because it helped me think through something, because you said what I've been trying to say, but I couldn't convey it the right way. Like, hands down, it works. And you can use those skills. This is one thing I really appreciate. A lot of the young activists that I started working with when I was in college, 20 some odd years ago, are off. Some of them have remained activists, but they're not necessarily promoting atheism. They're promoting LGBTQ rights, progressive politics, things like that. And they are active in those worlds. And why? Because they felt like these skills that they developed as atheists would translate to being, I mean, they were passionate about these, getting conservative religious views out of politics or out of these issues, abortion rights, women's rights, whatever it is. And so they're using all of that in whatever way works for them now, which is awesome.
Yeah, I know that Alex O'Connor, I think his channel is called Cosmic Skeptic, has been found some success on TikTok, and I know he's been making videos on there about veganism, actually, which it is cool. Interesting. So, okay, this is something I wanted to ask you about, but I saw a video on your channel about how you were actually sent threatening messages from a U.S. senator. So, can you talk to me about what the heck happened there?
Yeah, there is a guy in Arkansas, Jason Rapert. He is a state senator who's actually running for lieutenant governor, I believe, in 2022. Like,
good.
He's already planning on that. That's been on the wall for a while. Presumably, he would be running on the same ticket as Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the former communications director for Trump. But anyway, obviously very conservative, very Republican. That's not weird. But he's been a sitting state senator for a while now, several years. And that means he's done a lot of things trying to promote Christianity through the government that I've written about, criticized, things like that. And sometimes if I'm writing some things, for example, one of the things he did is he got a 10 Commandments monument outside the state capitol. And he did it in a way that was just blatantly unconstitutional because it's really the only religious monument on that property. The Satanic Temple tried to get their monument on the same grounds and they were rejected. There's a lawsuit that's been ongoing for years now. But why is that 10 Commandments monument there? Because of Rapert. And so sometimes if I'm writing about him and saying something where it's like, I kind of wonder what he thinks about something because maybe it would help to get his thing, I will reach out to people and say, listen, I'm writing about this thing, but I'm trying to figure this out. Do you have anything to say? They don't always write back. Rapert in the past, on and off, he has answered me sometimes. Sometimes he will ignore me. But I think more recently, especially during the Trump era, I feel like he's just treated any question I ask as something coming from the enemy, which is a very Trumpian tactic. And so one time I asked him, I thought an innocuous question. I don't remember what it was right now, but it's just like, you could just answer the question. I'm making this up. But for example, like, have you gotten vaccinated? Because that might play a role in how you were thinking about mask mandates. I think he pushed for people to wear masks.
Right.
But then he said something else that was contradictory to that. And I was trying to figure that out. And his response was something like, you sent people after me, or you are sending threats my way. And I'm like, I didn't do any of that stuff. And also the answer was like a yes or a no. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I made a video where I just showed people what my issues were and what he responded. Why? Do I think he's going to change? No, I don't think he's going to change. But knowing he's running for high office, statewide office in the next election, I do want people who search for him on YouTube to hopefully see that video and realize, oh, this is the sort of person we're electing to office. Here's his temperament. Again, I would be foolish to think anyone's going to care what my video has to say. But that's the thing. Let me put it out there, and then whoever finds it, finds it. It's the same reason I've made videos about like the group 1 Million Moms, which is really just one mom, and William Donahue of the Catholic League, which is really one dude in like a basement somewhere, pretty much. Or Matt Powell. Like, I don't think anyone cares about this creationist Matt Powell, but on the off chance they are trying to figure out who this guy is, because 5 years from now he runs for office, it would be good to have this out there. I'll give you one quick example of it. Sometimes I get criticism on my blog, like, why are you writing about this weird fringe Christian that nobody cares about or something, as if they are representative of anyone else, which would be a legit complaint. Like, why focus on the low-hanging fruits? Do you know that Congresswoman Lauren Boebert from Colorado, super conservative QAnon type, she's in Congress, says a lot of crazy stuff. She got elected in 2020. Yeah, she got elected last year, and she's been insane ever since. The first time I think I wrote about her was 2012 or something, maybe 2014. It was years ago, before she was ever thinking of running for public office, because she was doing crazy stuff while running a restaurant or something, like like a special discount for gun owners. I don't remember the details, but like I wrote about, because she was using religion as her justification for doing something crazy. I wrote about that. And again, you think it's a one-off. You think it's a fringe candidate, fringe person who doesn't represent anybody. Next thing you know, she's running for office. I get the same criticism about like Greg Locke, that fire-breathing pastor from Tennessee, where it's like, come on, he's insane, but he's an anomaly. He runs his own church. He is his own leader. There's no higher power over him, literally speaking. But that's the sort of guy who would totally run for office in a conservative community and get away with it because it's a conservative rural community and could win. And like, if that happens, you want that record of what this guy has said and done in the past.
Yeah. Is that Boebert? Does she make videos online? Is she like blonde? I think I've seen
that is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Okay.
Who is one of the other QAnon supporting crazy nutballs. But again, it's like one of those things where it's like at this point there are so many, it's hard to pick them apart.
Right.
But again, the story I think is worth telling is one of the problems we had with Donald Trump is that so much of the media about him when he was running for office was so overwhelmingly like positive, relatively speaking, because he looked for it. He gave people access to him, so they would write positive stuff about him. Mm-hmm. It was about The Apprentice. It wasn't about the tax evasion and all that, because no one really cared to look into it, because why bother? He's some random dude who hosts a TV show. Next thing you know, right? Like, so sometimes covering these people over a long period of time, you get this running record of what some people have done. One of the websites I appreciate more than anything is Right Wing Watch, which profiles a lot of these people you would consider nutballs, and I mean you in general, but a lot of the people they talk about have gone on to be very influential. They certainly were during the Trump era, like advising him literally.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, who are these random preachers? We can go back and find out. We could find out what they said. And it's important to have that record.
Yeah, that's a good thing, because, if you're publishing these blog articles and, this person does get big, it's good for people who have never heard of them, who are now clicking on that article, to be able to see that there's a whole back catalog of links that they can go back and read all the crazy that's been preserved.
Totally. It's the same thing, by the way, and I appreciate you doing this too, with someone like Kent Hovind, who is like a creationist who I think a lot of people would not have heard of, because he runs his own little fiefdom, and unless you are looking for him, you might not know about him. He's not like the creationist compared to like Ken Ham, but at the same time, having this running record of stuff he's done that is cruel, that hurts people, that shows that long-standing effect. Like, no one's criticizing him without reason.
Yeah.
There is a running list, and his own followers may not know it because he doesn't talk about the bad. I mean, no one talks about the bad stuff in public. I get that. But like, here's what's going to happen. Sometimes you are part of a cult and you want to get out. And the thing, so many religious people, whether they were Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, stuff like that, they started to get an inkling something is wrong. In the Mormon faith, for example, a lot of people who questioned the story they were told by their leaders ended up finding something called the CES letter, written by, the name escapes me, but it was someone who went through the Book of Mormon and asked so many good questions about it and documented what's wrong with it. I've heard from so many people who read the CES letter and that was their thing. They're like, this person's asking all the questions I have. They are answering it in a way that makes sense and is documented and backed up. And that is helping me leave. And the same thing with Ken Hovind. He runs this little kingdom of his in where? Arkansas, Alabama?
It's Repton, Alabama.
And it's like, I don't know how much faith I have that some of the people in his closest circles are going to distance themselves in the near future. But if and when they do, there is no shortage of material documenting, not gratuitous ad hominem remarks, just saying like, I hate the guy, he's wrong, he's stupid. No. Here's the court record of what he did. Yeah. Here is the footage, the audio of him allegedly abusing someone he was married to or dating or whatever you want to say. Like, it's out there. but you have to be willing to look. And for the rest of us who already are outside that bubble, it's still important to point out the hypocrisy of people like that.
Yeah, and I've found that people actually are leaving his little circle, because somebody like Kent, he has had a lot of really loyal people around him, but everybody has their breaking point. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I think we like to think that somebody who is a creationist or follows somebody like Kent Hovind, like, if they can think that Kent is somebody who's saying stuff that is true to the point where they'll go and live there, that, maybe their BS detector isn't working. But even these people get pushed away. And, I'm in contact with some of these people, and, they just got, they just couldn't stand by and have their children in an environment with some of the stuff that Kent was doing and the people he was bringing around there. And, now after his recent arrest again, I'm wondering what the people who are still there are thinking, and how this is going to, affect his sort of public reputation. Because, I feel like generally people, they don't care that much about the tax evasion thing on a moral level. Like, nobody likes paying taxes, but, and, it is kind of funny, to sort of poke fun at Kent about the whole tax evasion thing. But it's a whole other thing when it comes to domestic abuse. That's not something that people are going to just sit idly by about. And I think that this is a black eye in his reputation that's a lot worse than the last one.
Yeah, and I would add to that, I mean, there are people who have left the Westboro Baptist Church. There are people who leave cults. There are people who have left the Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, there are people who you think will never leave because they are so entrenched in this world, but they eventually do. I mean, I know you've heard it. I've heard it from a lot of atheists who were deeply fundamentalist Christian. But again, how do they end up leaving? Something triggers some questions in their head. They start having some doubts. That little seed gets planted.
Right.
And it's not that it's going to happen overnight, but once you start questioning things, the dominoes start falling, and they eventually start realizing, you know what, I think the outside world has a point here. Because, of course, when you're inside the bubble, they paint the outside world as satanic, as trying to fool you on this stuff. And some people figure out, oh, that's not Satan. Those other people actually have a good point that I can't answer. It all starts somewhere, and we all have that story, and we've all heard it. This is one of the things that's kept me going, writing about atheism or making those videos and stuff, which is, I don't know that anyone's watching my videos and suddenly changing their mind. I'm not so arrogant that I think anyone cares, but maybe they will stumble upon my video somehow, or maybe they will check it out, and maybe it sticks with them because it's a Christian who saw it and they said, you know what? I don't have a good response to that, I hope. Or maybe I wasn't trying to convince them to leave their faith, but, oh, you made a video about this person and you called out some of their BS. And that's a fair point. I can't argue with that. And that is I'm happy with that. I get messages from people on social media or Facebook or whatever. And they're like, I'm a Christian. I watched your video and I agree with you. I agree with you on that issue. I'm still religious. And I'm like, cool. I don't care. I'm not going to waste my time trying to convert you, but I'm here. Like, I'll keep making this stuff. I'm glad it helps. But like, it's why I don't debate people, really. I don't care if I convert you, but I like that I can maybe plant a seed somewhere, and maybe along the line, someone will change their mind and I can play a little role in that. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm not keeping tally marks anywhere, but that's kind of the hope. And again, this is the thing. Ken Hovind has a tight leash on that inner circle, but some of those people may get out. And the way it's going to happen is because they see the stuff, the allegations of domestic abuse, and they're like, that's a bridge too far from me. But also, he might have an excuse for that. Or maybe, pastors do it all the time when it comes to abuse. They will find a way to explain, like, no, the world is saying this. Here's what actually happened.
Yeah.
And they'll rationalize it. I've seen atheists do this too, by the way, with bad behavior. But again, if you want to look for it, here's the documentation. You could see the audio. You could read the affidavits. For anyone willing to look, it's there. and you can't force them to do it. But if they ever get curious at midnight one night and they go
Yeah.
down a rabbit hole, it's amazing what they'll find.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad that you mentioned that some of the stuff I've been doing, or other atheists that make stuff trying to show sort of, I guess, the darker side of Kent Hovind is, you know, you don't have to just make stuff that's just like insulting. I have plenty of videos that are just showing footage of his videos, like, you know, and
Yeah.
you know, it's just clips of him. That's all you really have to show, because it's like he makes himself look bad. I don't have to say anything.
Right. And sometimes that's the most effective. Like I said, Right Wing Watch, that site, which I adore because they do such good work, or Media Matters does the same thing.
Yeah.
They've made an entire thing where they're just like, here's the clip, here's the transcript. We are not adding commentary on purpose. I mean, you could read Right Wing Watch, like, whatever you want to say about them, you can't argue they're lying to you, because all they're doing is, like, I don't know, Mike Huckabee said this. This Republican leader, using religion or something, said this. Here's the clip. Here's the words. Like, what are you going to do with that? This is a point I think is worth bringing up over and over. When progressives, when liberals, when people like that want to mock conservatives, that is what they do. They show the clip, they read the words, it is in context. But when conservatives want to mock liberals, or, you know, pick on them, it is out of context, it is distorted, it is not the full story. There is no equivalent of, like, Right Wing Watch on the other side, because you can't do it. They have to make caricatures out of liberals in order to mock them. Like Joe Biden, oh, he's sleepy. Well, what do you do if you're trying to make fun of Donald Trump? Here's the transcript from what he said at a rally. Here's the video. Like, you don't have to make it up. And this is the thing with religion too. You could show a Kent Hovind clip and it'll do the work on its own. Because, like you said, he does he does all the work in making him look bad. I've said the same thing about Matt Powell too. Like, he's got to be an atheist plant because he does all the work in making himself look really dumb. But you can't necessarily take the other side out of context in the same way and make them look bad, because they don't. You have to make things up.
Yeah, and one, I think, reason for that, just before we sort of wrap up here, I'll say that one reason for that is that when you have conservative Christian types or religious leaders, a lot of times the stuff that they're saying maybe in private to their congregation is okay to say to them, but once people in the outer world see that and see how offensive it is, that's when it makes them look really bad. You know, so
yes,
they're willing to say things in that context that other people that are outside of that bubble, you know, it's not really socially acceptable, especially like LGBT stuff.
Yeah, and even mainstream churches that say things like, I'm saved, which seems innocuous and totally makes sense in their world. Well, what does that mean? What are you saying about people who are not in your club? You know, like, oh, there's something wrong with you. I mean, I want you to say it out loud, or I'll give you something I've used in lectures before, which is a fun question to ask evangelical Christians, which is, where is Anne Frank right now, the Jewish girl from the Holocaust? Because, like, she's Jewish. No one's doubting that. She did not have a conversion before her death. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, according to their belief, she's burning in hell. She didn't do anything wrong, but she's burning in hell because she never accepted Jesus. And I want them to say that. And I want them to admit that, because it makes them squirm. And it's great. Like, I just want them to admit it. And so sometimes the stuff that passes for rational thinking in those circles, when you just play it for the world and show them how it looks when it's outside the context of their bubble. I mean, there was a pastor I did this to maybe a few months ago where he talked about, like, the role of women and how, what's a good Christian woman? It's someone like Melania Trump. She's like the perfect trophy wife or something. He said all these things that are horrific. And in his church, you could hear the reaction in the crowd. It was going over very well. Like, they got his jokes. They thought it was funny. But when you take that clip and you put it on Twitter and you play it for other people, it's like, oh my God, what is wrong with these people? And you know what? The church could not defend it. They were like, yeah, we know this looks bad. We're just going to take our social media offline. By the way, I've looked, they are still offline. It's been like, it was February. It's been months. They have not reemerged publicly because they just couldn't defend this horrifying stuff that was said. And the thing is, the guy has been saying that stuff for years and we know it. So they had to delete their entire archive of material.
Yeah. And well, that's where you have the other channels preserving this stuff that come in. And that's why that's important, because you never know when these people are going to sort of duck from social media.
I've tried to do it a lot more often with those new independent fundamentalist Baptist churches, because they go off on saying crazy stuff all the time. And their channels, they're so offensive. Their channels get taken down by like YouTube algorithms and stuff really quickly. So it is important to preserve this and say, look, these people may seem like the fringe, but what they're saying is not that unusual. And you know what? They are growing in numbers. I know it's not the same as like having 100 million Southern Baptists or something, or whatever the number is, but like, don't discount this. Or at the very least, I would hope Christians would see some of the stuff those preachers are saying and say, that is not my faith. I oppose that. Like, oh, good. What are you going to say about your totally normal pastor who's saying, you know, being trans is a sin or doesn't exist? Like, because that's not any better.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm sure we could keep going on these topics for a while, but, you know, I want to respect your time. I know you're a busy man, but so I want to say thank you so much for coming on. You know, you gave some really great answers. But before I guess we end the video, like what do you have coming up? Some new videos and episodes of your podcast series?
Yeah, so I do the Friendly Atheist podcast where we discuss current events every week. So Friendly Atheist podcast for that. If you search my name, Hemant Mehta, on YouTube, you'll find videos. I actually stopped making videos for the Atheist Voice a while ago, and I just kind of do my own thing now. So it's on Hemant Mehta if you search for that. And I've been going through the Bible chapter by chapter lately. That's been amusing. And I have some other videos in there as well. Otherwise, friendlyatheist.com. And you could, that's kind of where I put the bulk of my time and energy.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll have all your stuff linked down below in the pinned comment. And I'll just say to my viewers, if you like this video, you know, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So thanks.
Thanks, everyone.